Hello, this is Anna Laura Brown, host of the Autoimmune Rehab Podcast, where we talk about how to actually thrive and heal your autoimmune condition rather than just covering it up with pills or changing your diet and hoping you'll feel better one day. We feature solo episodes on helpful topics and interviews with guests who have actually walked in your shoes with autoimmune disorders and/or who have years of experience in helping people to thrive and not just survive with autoimmune challenges. I'm a health coach who started this podcast because I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2018 and wanted to inspire hope and transform health for people with autoimmune challenges. So keep listening and let's get you the help and hope you really need. This is the Autoimmune Rehab Podcast. And in today's episode, I am really excited to have a really amazing guest, and hopefully I'm going to get her name correctly. We have Dr. Shivani Gupta, and maybe she'll correct me on that a little bit. And anyhow, she has a PhD in turmeric, and this really, really caught my attention. So, if you are wondering what on earth that entails, and I'm sure we're going to talk about different things like how to find the right kind of turmeric, when to use turmeric, and all different kinds of things, turmeric and other things related to autoimmune, keep listening because this is going to be the episode for you. So, with no further ado, welcome. Let's see, you pronounce your name, is it Shivani Gupta? Do I have that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, you got it right.
Awesome, cool. So start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit of how did you get into this whole doing a whole PhD in turmeric?
Sure. So I grew up living in two worlds. I grew up living in Houston, Texas, but also traveling to India each year of my life and always feeling like I didn't have an immune system. It was always a really big struggle because I would get air sick, car sick, seasick, every single cold that walked on by. And I always felt like, gosh, why is it that everyone else gets to have an immune system that works and I don't? And fast forward many years later, I learned I had leaky gut. And I had to do the work to reverse that leaky gut, heal my gut, get back to wholeness. And now I can very proudly say I have like an immune system of steel. And I also have this toolkit that I reach into all the time to have like a defense system in place against all the things that go by. And so when I learned about turmeric and I learned about Ayurveda, I realized that growing up here in the West, I just didn't have the whole toolkit that I needed to stay healthy. And Ayurveda really provides that. Ayurveda is the system of medicine from India, system of health, healing, and lifestyle, really, that's preventive. And it teaches us how to live this preventive lifestyle that keeps us healthy and whole and supported so that we can have the healthiest life possible and really build vibrant health and vibrant energy, which is my goal for everybody.
That's awesome. I love that. And for those of you that if you're listening to the audio, you won't be able to tell, but although maybe you probably figured that she has Indian ancestry in her to some degree or another. And if you're watching the video, you'll be able to tell that. So did you have one parent or maybe both parents that comes from India originally then too?
Both my parents were born and raised in India. Both of them moved to the US right before they had me. And then all my cousins and family are Indian and my grandparents are in India. So I get to go visit them and I always grew up seeing my grandma, like if I had a health issue, she would mix together some spices and make a tea to fix me. Versus when I was home in the US, it would be the drugstore that had like a pill for that solution, for that problem. So it's interesting. I always wondered like which one's right, which one's better. And I do think that Western medicine has tremendous value, but I also think that there's a lot of natural remedies and tools and spices and herbs and what I call super spices we can reach into to help us on our health journey.
For sure, absolutely. And turmeric is definitely one of those super spices. And I would say that I don't know if it's had necessarily a resurgence, if you want to call it that, but I know it's definitely become more popular in, I would say, the last 5 years or so. And if you've never even heard of turmeric, you must be living in a cave of some sort, because pretty sure you've probably at least heard of it. You may or may not have actually tried it, but you've probably at least heard of it. And there's all these different kinds of turmeric. There's turmeric powder, turmeric pills, turmeric teas, turmeric essential oil, turmeric this, turmeric that. So how does somebody avoid the overwhelm, I guess, if you will, and start figuring out how do they best get started using turmeric? And is there really a best form of turmeric, or can they all be beneficial?
Sure. So most people nowadays look at turmeric and are confused because it's like you said, offered in so many things. But I look at it as there's fresh turmeric, which looks like ginger. Turmeric and ginger are sister plants. And so when you take fresh turmeric, which so many people are making juice out of, they're taking ginger shots, turmeric shots, that kind of thing. The turmeric plant in its raw form was actually never really utilized much in India or in ancient India. They took that plant and they dried it and made a spice out of it. And that spice turmeric in its concentrated dried form is what we use in cooking. Now, in Indian cooking, it's always been used with black pepper or with fat or a healthy fat to increase that absorption. And we know that black pepper increases the absorption of turmeric by 2000%. So if you are going to eat regular turmeric, make sure you're doing it in a way that you're going to absorb it. But the problem is when it comes to inflammation, most people are suffering with some form of chronic, low grade, persistent inflammation in their bodies. It's showing up when we eventually go to the doctor with our symptoms stack up and we're like, something's wrong. They do some testing and they're like, yep, you're inflamed, you have something itis. And then for that something itis, they give us something to turn off inflammation. That's where turmeric in a supplement form can be very powerful because we could be taking the extract of turmeric called curcumin to significantly reduce inflammation. And what most people don't know is out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% is the curcuminoids. And out of those three curcuminoids, the one curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation. And so a lot of people are taking turmeric powder in a pill, waste of your time and money. A lot of people are taking the wrong proportion of the curcuminoids, or they're not even understanding the potency that they're investing in, and thus they're not getting a result. And so for me, once I finished my PhD on turmeric, I realized everyone should be taking this spice. This thing is antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal. Like to me, it's this wonder plant that does so much. So if I'm going to take it, I want to take it and get a result. And that's why I developed a formulation with a 95% potency. And we usually drive up from that towards 98%. And the right proportion done the right way so that you are getting the result that you want, which is significant reduction of inflammation.
That's interesting, yeah, because I've been taking turmeric supplements for quite some time, and I definitely feel like it helps, but maybe not quite to the extent because, I'm not quite familiar with the exact one that you're referring to. So I'll definitely have to check that out. And those of you that are listening, we definitely will have that linked in the show notes. And I believe she's going to actually offer us some kind of a coupon code too. So I definitely recommend you go ahead and check that out because that can be really helpful, I'm sure. And does this particular formulation have the black pepper added into it as well then?
Yeah, so I made two formulations. In my turmeric gold, I followed what the science shows. So we have over 6,000 scientific studies that say that 500 milligrams of curcumin with 4 milligrams of black pepper extract is this perfect combination when it comes to inflammation. And in there, I actually added 50 milligrams of turmeric powder back in because I do believe that there's this whole plant extract synergistic effect that occurs. And I've worked with scientists who said, like, please make sure you include both. So that's turmeric gold, which everyone takes as their daily preventive. And then I developed a different formula called inflammation relief. And my theory there was if we follow what the ancient Ayurvedic guru or Vaidya in the village would give you, he would have formulated guruchi with the curcumin, with boswellia, with amla, with dry ginger. Like it would have been this symphony of herbs that's put into the body that the body receives with the intelligence of understanding primary herbs do the main job. Secondary herbs support that main job and getting them where they need to go. Third herbs remove the negative effects of even putting herbs in the body in the first place. So there's like this intelligence that exists in herbology in ancient Ayurveda. And so that second formulation I made for that crew that knows they're inflamed and is going to take that formula just when they know they are inflamed. So to me, it's really fun actually to experiment with the super spices and formulate around the different issues that people have, whether it's sleep or menopause or inflammation or these different things.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that. So, a couple other questions come to mind. So, one question is, there's obviously we've seen a surge of popularity of things like the turmeric tea, things like the golden milk with the turmeric in it, all that kind of stuff. Is that still beneficial for people, or what are your thoughts on those kinds of things?
I actually don't waste my time on turmeric tea at all. I
Mhm.
do think that haldi doodh, which is what we call the turmeric latte in India, does have tremendous value if you aren't dealing with active inflammation in your system and you want like a delicious wellness drink that's going to give you some benefit. Yes, have it. But the problem is here in the West, we sometimes disconnect the point. So turmeric needs that healthy fat. It can't be a skinny latte and then you're not going to get the benefits from it. So just that awareness around like whole fat with turmeric at night, yes, it is beneficial. It's going to be anti-inflammatory. It will support you. But you might be getting like 10% of the result you want, and if you want 100%, you need to take supplement level extracts to get there.
Okay, that's awesome. That's helpful. Yeah, because I know I've experimented with a lot of different things. Like I said, I used to even put the powder in green smoothies and kind of
Yeah.
sort of stopped that partly because of the taste, but partly because I was like, I don't know if this is the best way to do it. But I mean, you
Yeah.
live and you learn. And the other question I was curious about is, did you have to go to India to get the PhD in turmeric, or how did that work? Because I'd never even heard of such a thing.
No, so post college, I knew that Ayurveda was this thing that healed me and helped me. And so I told my parents, I said, I want to open a health spa in the United States, in Texas. And so we went on this quest, this journey through India, where they took me and I got to study under all the gurus, like the very well-renowned gurus of Ayurveda. And my at the time, I really wanted to understand like what works, what doesn't. This is such a huge science, but I knew in the West we weren't going to sit there and do everything all day. Like it's pretty involved. And so I studied it. And then finally, when I was ready to have kids back here in the US, I thought, I should formalize my study because my goal in life is to write books on Ayurveda and teach it to the world. So I embarked on my master's here in the US. And then it was in herbology class that I fell in love with turmeric because I thought, wow, my whole family's diabetic. Everyone suffers from inflammatory based diseases. What if turmeric could have solved this for us? Like the whole time I could have had a solution and we just didn't know. So that's what led me to doing the PhD. And I did it all here. And now my goal is how much science can we publish on curcumin per disease pathology in this life to show people the effects of it? So I'm embarking on clinical trials in orthopedics and different groups just to keep pushing the science forward. And then I'm also going to be writing a book with Hay House next year on inflammation, where I get to share how turmeric is just one of the powerful super spices for our health.
That's exciting. That's awesome. Well, when you get that book published, you'll definitely have to share it with me so we can circle back around and
For
share
sure.
that with people because that's awesome. That's amazing. So you mentioned, like turmeric and the role in diabetes. Obviously, a lot of people that have autoimmune conditions struggle with their blood sugar, their diabetes. Diabetes is becoming an epidemic in this country. So I'm just curious, how does turmeric help with diabetes specifically?
Sure. So turmeric, I mean, diabetes is caused by what? Insulin resistance. Oftentimes that's metabolic syndrome, metabolic disease, tied to obesity, tied to us being inflamed or gut dysbiosis being off. So I look at it all as a loop and a cycle. So oftentimes when we're having obesity and inflammation issues, there is scientific proof that turmeric, when it comes to obesity, if you reduce that inflammation, it's much easier to let go of fat cells and flush out and release the fat cells in our body that are excess. And so obesity and metabolic disease and turmeric are tied together. We have science that turmeric can impact metabolic disease in a good way and reduce its impact on the body.
That's awesome. That's cool because I guess I never really made that connection, even though I knew that turmeric was a big anti-inflammatory. Never really made that connection. That's awesome.
Sure, it's that idea that if we're in this inflammation cycle, the body is constantly battling with inflammation. So I kind of look at it, and when it comes to autoimmune, it's really interesting. I have a whole Facebook group where I talk about this a lot. If we are going to sleep every night and we're not even sleeping well, so we're waking up more inflamed and we're not allowing the lymphatic system to clear. But imagine if the body is in this gridlock between inflammation and the lymphatic system. We're constantly in this traffic jam and we're allowing outside things like viruses and things to come in and take hold because the body is just gridlocked. But if we take our system and we take inflammation off the table, which is such a big culprit, and we support lymphatic flow, lymphatic drainage, lymphatic system to be supported, then all of a sudden the body's ready for things that come from the outside. And then when you talk about autoimmune in Ayurveda, we talk about that as look, if the body's inflamed, if we're always in fight or flight, we're never in rest or digest, we're never letting the body get back to homeostasis, into its original healed state. And so my big dream is also to work with rheumatology because I'm hearing how many rheumatology doctors are saying to their patients, hey, you should take turmeric because their toolkit is only so big in terms of how they are able to help people with the autoimmune issues that exist. And so my point to everyone who is suffering with autoimmunity is look, let's look at the gut. Let's heal the gut. Let's nourish the gut. Ayurveda has a lot of tools for that. We teach about the gut digestive fire being the center of all health. And now look how modern science has proven gut microbiome connected to gut brain axis. Gut microbiome is where 70 to 80% of the immune system resides alongside the gut. Well, Ayurveda already said that 5,000 years ago. So we already had an entire lifestyle built around honoring the gut as the center. And then in addition, taking turmeric and or ginger, there are so many great super spices. These spices will help reduce that inflammation. And then all of a sudden the body can say, okay, we're not battling on all fronts. Let's go battle where the real battle is.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that. So now let's talk for a few minutes here, the big expanded picture. So obviously, turmeric, like we've said, is a really great super spice. If you've got autoimmune pain, inflammation, whatever, you got to get the turmeric in your body.
Yeah.
How does the whole Ayurvedic, is that how you say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
How would somebody get started with or start exploring the role that the expanded Ayurvedic above and just beyond the turmeric can help with autoimmune conditions?
Sure. So Ayurveda, I think of it as like the six pillars of Ayurveda. We teach about how to eat and when to eat, even more so than what to eat. We teach about circadian rhythm, the importance of living according to your circadian clock and living in rhythm with nature, as opposed to going against your nature's clock, your biological clock. We teach about sleep, the importance of sleep, how like investing in great sleep is your investment in clearing the lymphatic system, the glymphatic system. If we're not sleeping well, the brain accumulates 3 pounds of lymphatic waste just in the brain at night. Like that's insane. Imagine what it's doing on a body level if we're not sleeping properly and getting deep sleep states. Then I teach about gut health, just how to honor the gut with teas and elixirs all day. I teach about your dosha, your individual mind body constitution, which is your blueprint for how you can live a healthier lifestyle overall. And I have a 7-day inflammation detox challenge that I built to help everyone understand how to detox and reset the body. So, to answer your question, Ayurveda is a whole lifestyle, but from Ayurveda, if I was going to pick like the simplest way to start, one way I love to teach is just to start with a copper tongue scraper. A tongue scraper is a simple health habit from Ayurveda that everyone can do. You just gently scrape the tongue 7 to 14 times. And what that does is there's this white film that builds up on the tongue, and we call that ama. So by gently clearing off that toxin film in the body, you're also gently massaging all the organs of the body because we teach that the tongue reflects all the organs, just like the bottom of the feet does in reflexology. And so that's a gentle way to detox every day. And so by supporting our system and being less detoxed, we're supporting our overall health.
That's awesome. That's cool. Okay, well, if you have like a link somewhere to your information about your challenge, we'll definitely
Yes.
link to that too, so people
Okay.
can go check that out. But yeah, I love that because yeah, it's true. I had a naturopathic doctor once tell me that the most important doctor that you can have is actually your dentist and
Yes.
not actually the other doctors. And people sometimes don't even realize that, but that's because what you put in your mouth and what is absorbed in and around your mouth, like the different kinds of toothpaste, all those different kinds of things, what goes in your mouth, that has an impact on the whole rest of your whole body. And a lot of people don't
Correct.
even realize that. It's like,
Correct. Yeah, oral microbiome is tied to gut microbiome. It's the beginning of the entire microbiome system. And so, isn't it cool? Ayurveda taught us about tongue scraping and oil pulling thousands of years ago using natural toothpaste like neem, which we know neem is like antibacterial and so cleansing. So yeah, it's interesting because also we've proven that oral health is heart health in recent times in the last couple decades.
yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I love this information. So anything else that we haven't talked about that you wanted to share with people?
Just, I would love to share that from Ayurveda, when it comes to autoimmune conditions, I think autoimmune is an issue that's becoming much more accelerated much more prevalent since the pandemic. I'm seeing it around me more and more. It's exploding. I'm finding that pretty much every woman who has kids or crosses her 30s, majority, I should say, not every, but majority of women are suffering with some sort of thyroid condition. Then all of a sudden we hit our 40s and it's different hormonal fluctuations. But when it comes to autoimmune, the desire from Ayurveda is how can we support the body into getting so healthy and strong and nourished that it's got all the support and tools it needs to get back to whole and healthy and restored? Because modern day times is set up to cause our body to be at war with itself and to struggle. And that's not fair. It's not fair that our body is kind of under assault from so many external outputs. I talk about toxic burden and the stresses of life and how these things cause inflammation and problems. And so Ayurveda is just here to show us how to love our gut, love our health, love our brain health, put inflammation into remission so that we can then build vitality and vibrant energy the way we want to.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's almost a perfect way to end too. It's awesome. So
Awesome.
everybody go ahead and check out the links that will be there. Like I said, we'll have a link to the turmeric supplement with the coupon code. We'll have a link to the detox program and maybe just your general website and any other contact information you want to leave. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, the best ways to do that, that would be awesome too.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. Yep. So thanks for listening, everybody. If you found this episode helpful, please like it, review it, and share it with other people so that we can get the message more out there about the power of turmeric and Ayurveda and all things autoimmune.